After 3 weeks of digging, I finally came up with the perfect theory for episode 6. And today, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the new episode. First off, let's go over all the scenes and leaks. We already got some leaks, scenes, and even secret characters from episode 6, and in this video, I'm going to break down absolutely everything we know so far and tell y'all what to expect from the next episode. And of course, I'll also drop the estimated release date for episode 6, and trust me, it's going to catch you off guard. We recently got a batch of bonus scenes, and tucked away in there was a real gem. We saw Zubble and Gangle as animals. Got a deeper look into evil Ragatha's emotions, but what really caught my eye was this image. Yeah, the one that shows Ribbit. Now, if you've somehow been living under a rock this whole time, Ribbit is Jax's best and apparently only friend who turned into an abstracted monster not long before Kofmo did. And for some reason, I'm more than sure this character might actually show up in the next episode, maybe as an Easter egg, an NPC, or even a full-on character just for that episode, and I'm about to prove why that's totally possible. We all remember that episode 5 was originally supposed to be focused on Ragatha, then Gooseworx surprised us by saying it would be equally split between Jax and Ragatha, but based on what we actually saw, I can confidently say episode 5 turned out to be Ragatha's episode. Sure, we learned a few secrets about Jax and got a tiny glimpse into who he is beneath the surface, but the main storyline was definitely all about Ragatha, which means episode 6, just like it was originally planned, is going to be way more focused on our favorite rabbit. And if the spotlight's on Jax, then the events are obviously going to revolve around him too. And since Ribbit played such a major role in his life, not showing him, or at least not bringing him up in episode 6, would honestly feel like a crime. And if we go back to that very image, the first thing that struck me as odd was the fact that Gooseworx specifically highlighted it. If you take a closer look at the drawing itself, you'll instantly notice how much Ribbit actually resembles Jax. Just look at how Goose portrayed his expression. It's crazy how similar it is to the kinds of emotions we've seen on Jax's face in so many different moments. Now think about this. If the creators had no plans to show this character again, then why go out of their way to design him with that much detail and then even officially confirm who he is? If he was just going to stay a piece of backstory, there'd be no point in giving him that kind of spotlight, especially since Goose isn't really into pushing fan theories or hyping stuff just for attention. Remember that old leak of Jax in the maid outfit? That thing's been floating around for over a year if I'm not mistaken, and while everyone thought it was a joke back then, now we've seen it's actually canon, which means it's totally possible Ribbit might appear in the next episode too, considering that official art and everything I just laid out. As always, I'm waiting for your thoughts in the comments, but let's keep going. By now you've probably realized that Ribbit has to show up in episode 6, and the only question left is in what form we'll actually see him. There's a solid chance that Ribbit might actually be that strange mannequin we've seen popping up in multiple episodes. At first it didn't seem like much, but after the final scene in episode 5, it's starting to look like this mannequin could play a pretty big role in the digital circus. Maybe that's Dr. Football, or maybe it is Ribbit. His consciousness transferred out of the abstracted form and into the mannequin's body. After all, we know Kane has the power to manipulate the very minds of the circus residents, so it's totally possible he brought Ribbit back to sanity, but I think this whole theory deserves its own deep dive. For now, let's keep going with the early scenes and leaks from episode 6. Right after episode 5 dropped, we got that teaser showing Ragatha sitting alone, and seriously, am I the only one seeing that same mannequin in the background? Going back to that teaser, it's super clear this is the very next moment after Ragatha walked off screen, so it's probably not some random time skip or separate flashback. It really feels like this is a direct continuation of episode 5. Sure, some might argue that it takes place in between episodes 5 and 6, but I've got reasons to believe that episodes 5 and 6 are actually one massive connected story, with the events flowing straight into each other without a single break. Everyone's already seen that so-called leak that says episodes 5 and 6 are split between Jax and Ragatha, and yeah, we've already talked about that today. But let's not forget the theory that these two characters are actually connected, so their stories are unfolding side by side. Episode 5 leaned more into Raggy's perspective, and episode 6 is shaping up to focus more on Jax. So in that case, episodes 5 and 6 are really just one huge story that got split in half, but still follows one continuous plotline. That's why the teaser we saw works as both the ending of episode 5 and the beginning of episode 6. It makes perfect sense, especially if you look at Ragatha's mental state by the end of episode 5. She's clearly falling apart, and judging by that final scene, she's dangerously close to turning into an abstracted monster. I think that's exactly how episode 6 is going to kick off as a straight continuation of episode 5. We'll probably dive a bit deeper into Raggy's storyline first, and then it'll all spiral into the chaos Gooseworx teased way back in December. And all that chaos? most likely tied to Jax. Which honestly makes you question everything we saw about him in episode 5, like what if none of it was genuine? What if this dude's actually trying to use Pomni for something? That's a whole other theory we'll definitely need to talk about soon, but for now I'm betting it's going to start with a pretty emotional scene. Ragatha, totally on the edge, maybe even breaking down, and maybe, just maybe, Pomni shows up and they have a serious talk. For now though, it's all just speculation. We've also got some text-based leaks floating around, like this one for example, that mention there's going to be a pretty specific or oddly dark joke in episode 6. I think it's pretty obvious that this joke's going to come from Jax. There's really no one else who fits the bill. And we've got that one random line from him too, which honestly has no clear context yet, but something tells me it's definitely aimed at Ragatha, or maybe not. Either way, we all remember the one-word episode descriptions, and episode 6 is tagged as Guns. Considering this one's mainly about Jax, I'm almost certain the new adventure is going to be perfectly tailored for him. If episode 5 was chaos, made up of different themes mashed together, then episode 6 will likely be much more focused. The Circus cast probably voted on an adventure Jax didn't like, which made him drop that line, and in the end, he somehow took over and picked the new mission himself. Given the guns theme and Jax's love for anything wild or dangerous, episode 6 might seriously end up being the craziest one we've seen so far. Right now, that's pretty much all the main stuff we know about episode 6, but just recently, Goose dropped an interesting post on Blue Sky saying, "It warms my heart seeing nobody accurately predict how episode 6 is going to play out." That's a pretty clear hint that the episode's going to take a completely unexpected turn, but honestly, that just makes it way more fun, right? Gooseworx also posted a pretty cryptic message on her X account that fans instantly took as a possible hint at episode 6 dropping soon, and honestly, that theory makes total sense. I'm on the same page too. Episode 6 is very likely to release much faster than episode 5 did, and there's a few solid reasons for that. If you remember, the short wait between episodes 3 and 4 was because they were developed at the same time, but when episode 4 came out, barely anything was ready for episode 5 yet. Now, though episodes 5 and 6 are basically two halves of the same story, so it's super likely they were worked on simultaneously. And if that's true, then I'm pretty confident we'll see episode 6 either by late summer or sometime in early to mid-September. Also, on top of that, Goose might have been hinting at a pretty interesting Easter egg that they'll probably sneak into episode 6, and to figure it out, we gotta go back and remember one particular scene.
Sup, I'm evil Pomni. I'm evil Ragatha.
Coach Dictator here.
Hi guys, I'm Evil Jax.
Evil Orbs Man reporting for duty.
I'm Zubble.
As you might have noticed, the evil version's lineup was missing Gangle, and for a lot of people that felt like a mystery. But Goose actually gave us all the answers and even described what she would have looked like. For some reason, I've got a feeling that this tiny detail might actually turn into a small storyline the creators could cleverly play around with in the new episode. But of course, that's just a fun little fact and nothing more. How Gooseworx flipped the entire plot of episode 6 with just one single leak, and what Glitch might really be trying to tell us lately. At this point, it genuinely looks like episode 6 is going to mark the true beginning of the chaos Gooseworx teased, and I'm more than sure we're going to see at least one new character. Whether it'll be in the form of someone's flashback or an actual in-Circus appearance. That's what we're figuring out today. So first off, let me quickly walk you through the top contenders for the role of the newest digital Circus character, and then we'll get into the real crazy stuff. About a week after episode 5 dropped, Glitch released another video showing off new merch and Animaniz toys. And among them was Kofmo, who honestly shouldn't even be there. Even if it was just for marketing, it still felt super weird, especially when you realize he also popped up again in another recent Glitch video. That's just way too many Kofmo mentions at once. Naturally, a bunch of fans started throwing out theories that we might finally see Kofmo return, and honestly, it makes sense. Originally, Kofmo was supposed to be one of the main cast members in the digital Circus, but something changed before the final version of the show was locked in, and they ended up removing him without giving us basically any info. All we really know is that he always tried to cheer everyone up and probably had a decent bond with Jax. What really added fuel to the fire was Kane himself straight up confirming Kofmo's existence as canon right before the clown sorta appeared. And yeah, if you tie all this together with the fact that episode 6 is supposed to be the true start of chaos, then Kofmo showing up again seems more than possible, and I'm not even just talking flashbacks, but we'll get to that in a second. As I said earlier, Kofmo most likely got along really well with Jax, but it still wasn't the same level of friendship Jax had with Ribbit. And what really gets me curious is what gender Ribbit actually is. Drop your opinion in the comments, just please don't say frog. For convenience, I'll be using he as the pronoun. As we learned in episode 5, Ribbit was genuinely close to Jax, and from the looks of it, he's now hanging out with Kofmo somewhere in the cellar. But here's the thing, we still can't be 100% sure Ribbit actually turned abstracted because we never saw it happen with our own eyes. And that weird mannequin? Still bugging me because it's clearly not just some random NPC. It has that vibe of being a former digital circus resident, and for some reason I'm convinced it's Ribbit. Plus, Goose gave us a super detailed concept of the character, and like I've already said here, it'd be weird to flesh out a character that's just a name drop and a drawing on the board if they weren't planning something bigger. And the third potential new character might actually be our old buddy Dobby, who abstracted a long time ago, but he's still the top pick for fans when it comes to bringing back an older character. We all remember the events of episode 4 that took place at the fast food joint Spudsy's. The founder of that chain is Albert Spudsy, who, as you might have guessed, isn't just some random dude, but actually the secret behind the mysterious A. And if you paid close attention to that one wacky watch leak, you might have noticed Dobby hinted at in some form, maybe just as an Easter egg or subtle reference. And don't forget, the number 57 is one of the ongoing mysteries in the digital circus, and probably has deeper meaning. So the fact that the Dobby dog is priced at $57.57? Yeah, not a coincidence. But being real for a sec, out of the 3 potential characters we've talked about, Dobby's definitely the least likely to make a comeback in episode 6, so let's not waste time digging deeper into that one. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because if we remember that deleted post on X where Goose replied, "I can't say it, because it would cause problems," and the comments on it, it's pretty clear they were talking about someone turning into an abstracted monster. And now our whole view of episode 6 changes, since after that, the return of Kofmo or Ribbit feels way more real. I even saw some fans use that shot as proof someone's gonna abstract and get replaced by someone new, but that's just false, and an exaggeration. Because if you look at the merch video, it's obviously just Pomni in disguise, and this secret animaniz will probably reveal the mystery of that seaweed adventure. But even without that, there's way too many hints that someone really might abstract, and we'll definitely talk about it. But first, let's think why they keep showing Kofmo and Ribbit so much. I think it's no secret that episode 6 was originally planned as Jax's episode, but then the creators kinda switched things up and split episodes 5 and 6 between Jax and Ragatha. Still, I'm pretty sure episode 6 will mainly focus on Jax's screen time, and if we remember the so-called first introduction to Kofmo,
I've been looking for this. Thanks for keeping an eye on it, Coffee. I'm gonna head out. See ya.
it becomes clear that Jax had a pretty good relationship with him since he trusted him with his stuff, and that funeral scene from episode 2 also proves it. As for Jax and Ribbit's relationship, I don't think there's even a point in explaining since we've already talked about it, and just Jax's reaction to the mere mention of his friend says a lot. So we have Jax, who will be the focus of episode 6, and lots of hints about Kofmo and Ribbit, both of whom Jax was close to. Against this background, I can confidently assume that these two will definitely appear in episode 6 as memories from Jax's past, and we'll likely see several scenes with these characters. But what if it's not that simple, and one of them, or maybe even both, will appear as living characters in the new episode? I'll tell you straight, that's more than possible. As I said before, we don't really know for sure what happened to Ribbit, or what's going on with him now, while with Kofmo, things seem more logical and clear. But we've seen several times that Kane can alter characters' minds, or heal them from gradually turning into abstracted monsters, so he's capable of bringing someone back from the cellar. The catch is, if that happens, we'll lose 2 characters from the current digital circus cast at once. And here's the interesting part. I already mentioned that mannequin who is quite likely Ribbit right now, while Kofmo's return would turn someone familiar from the circus crew into an abstracted monster. So let's discuss who that might be, and wrap up this video with a final conclusion. We can immediately cross Jax off this list since he's basically the main face of everything happening, and everything in episode 6 will revolve around him. We can also safely say Pomni is in the safe zone. Not only is she the main hero of the amazing digital circus, but with each episode, we see her reacting more and more calmly to what's going on, which means her mental health is steadily improving. Zubble is so resilient that even a global chaos or anything else won't make them lose their mind. Things are more complicated with Kinger and Gangle. We can definitely say Kinger has already lost his mind.
Come down here for a sec. We all got briefs on our characters. I'm your assistant. I'd personally go with blue. Blue's my favorite color, it being closest to black and all.
Wouldn't black be your favorite color then?
Well, no, there's no black wire.
But that doesn't stop him from living. While Gangle's situation is more interesting, On one hand, her friendship with Zubble makes her stronger and more stable.
I still like talking to you. Look, the new mask was a bust. So what? I'm sure we'll find something that works eventually.
But she's still in a state where if something terrible happens, Zubble will always be able to pull her out. And here's who's actually on the verge of becoming an abstracted monster. Ragatha, who not only started lashing out at the people she cares about.
Okay, let's, calm down a bit.
What? You're the one who said it's fine to be a jerk sometimes! Ugh. I'm sorry, Pomni. That wasn't very cool of me.
It's fine.
But also ended up completely alone with no one giving a damn about her. Most likely, this combined with the fact that she's living every day in pain from childhood psychological trauma is exactly what's going to push her over the edge and lead to her becoming abstracted and being replaced by Kofmo. Because as we remember, that mannequin is actually Ribbit. And in that case, we'd be getting 2 new characters while only losing 1. We're actually not that far from episode 6 dropping, and we already got some pretty wild leaks. So today I'm going to break down what's going to happen to each character in this episode. We're going to find out the real truth about some of them and some creepy stuff about the rest. Pomni's been in this kind of shock for a while now after everything that's been going down in the digital circus, and that really hit hard back in episode 3.
It was...
But literally in the next episode, we saw a whole different Pomni. Happy, cheerful, and honestly already chill with everything going on here. And the peak of that mental glow-up was episode 5, where she finally just felt like herself.
Think we all look weird.
Excuse you, this is what peak male performance looks like. My ears and tail are kind of the pinnacle of masculinity.
You don't have a tail?
And that's when it really hits us that Pomni's finally happy, and that vibe's definitely going to carry on into episode 6. But what matters most is that now she finally got a real friend, or at least that's how she sees it, and that final scene just proves it. Like, look how she reacted when Jax showed up, and if you compare that to how she used to act, it's clear she's doing way better. And with the new episode set to dive deep into Jax's past and who he really is, and Pomni now basically being his bestie, it totally makes sense why fans of the digital circus are super hyped about what's going on with her and everything around her lately. I feel like Pomni's gonna spend like half the episode slowly digging into what was really going on in the digital circus before she showed up. And of course she's gonna be super curious about what actually happened to Ribbit, because even back in episode 5, that was one of the biggest mysteries for her.
So, you wanna talk about that?
I'm in a maid outfit, what do you think?
What was that about?
It's nothing. Who cares?
I'm pretty sure Jax is going to tell Pomni all about it, and honestly, like 95% of the time we're going to see her actually happy, because don't forget, starting from episode 6, things in the digital circus are going to go completely off the rails, and yeah, it's definitely going to affect Pomni too. And overall, nothing super crazy or dramatic is going to happen to her. And even though this whole new adventure was most likely kind of set up by Jax, since they're tight now, she's probably going to be the least affected by all the madness. Can't really say the same about Ragatha though, because she's slowly starting to show that she's not as sweet and positive as she's been pretending to be through those first 4 episodes.
Pomni! Are you okay? Well, what happened?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Well, let's forget about all that. Kane's got a new adventure today, and judging by what he's been teasing, it seems like it's gonna be a fun one.
But even back then, we were already getting little hints that something was off with Ragatha, and it was pretty clear that besides having some serious mental stuff going on, she's also like crazy obsessed with getting attention from other characters.
I wish someone would flirt with me.
And with what we learned in episode 5, it's pretty clear Ragatha's mental state is only going to get worse in episode 6. And this is basically the beginning of her downfall in the final scene of episode 5. You can totally see how upset she is over the fact that after all this time, she still couldn't really connect with anyone, or become a real friend to somebody. And later, it hits us that Pomni was like her last shot, and since that shot got straight up stolen by the purple rabbit, we're gonna see her hit rock bottom with all that depression and loneliness in episode 6. And the creators actually hinted at this in the teaser. I feel like that teaser is gonna be the opening of episode 6. And it perfectly sets up all the pain Ragatha's about to go through. We're also going to find out a bunch of her so-called secrets, including whatever connection she's got with Jax. Because if you think back to her monologue...
I was born into a fairly wealthy family. We had a large property with horses and chickens, and my mother... well...
And that one scene was honestly pretty damn intriguing.
What is this? Why'd you do that? Can you get that thing away from me?
Are you afraid of corn?
No. Who's afraid of corn?
So it's pretty obvious those two were somehow connected to some kind of farm that ended up being the reason Jax has got that whole corn phobia going on. And if you remember the teaser they dropped for episode 5, Korn was in there too, and I'm like 100% sure that ain't just some random thing. I'm not saying they were a couple or maybe family in the real world, but there's definitely something between them. And since Ragatha came from a pretty wealthy background, it's totally possible Jax worked for her family and maybe his main job was harvesting corn, but why that turned into such a major fear for him is still a huge mystery. Now, if we're talking about Gangle, it's pretty clear she's probably not going to play any major role in episode 6 other than just going through the same kind of stuff she's already been dealing with before.
Which door should we choose?
Not sure. Let's try this out. It's embarrassing. I mean, I guess it's not as embarrassing as that time Gangle took an anime figure and...
That's fine.
Of course, I'm talking about all the bullying and messed up stuff Jax puts her through, but honestly, lately it's been way less intense than it was back in the first few episodes, and I feel like we might finally find out what Gangle did that makes her freak out even at the slightest mention of it. Also, throughout all the episodes, you can kind of see how her mental health's been slowly getting better, and a huge part of that is thanks to Zubble.
The mask didn't work. And now I don't think anybody wants to talk to me anymore.
I still like talking to you. Look, the new mask was a bust. So what? I'm sure we'll find something that works eventually.
And judging by how their friendship keeps getting stronger, and if you remember when Jax straight up wondered if Gangle's even capable of being happy, we kind of get 2 clear hints about what's coming for her in episode 6. First off, she's definitely going to be more stable, and we're not going to see those extreme emotional breakdowns like before. And also, since Jax is probably going to ease up on her and maybe just throw a harmless joke or two her way, it's safe to say she's going to be totally fine. I don't even know what to say about Kinger, because if you think back to the pilot...
We saw Gloink carry one of Zubble's pieces down there, remember?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the recap.
Fellas.
Jax! We found the Zubble hole.
And then episode 5.
Come down here for a sec. We all got briefs on our characters. I'm your assistant.
And no point in asking Kinger, because there's no way he remembers anything.
Never better.
It's pretty obvious this dude just stays on the same level the whole time, and with all that in mind, I'm pretty sure nothing new is going to happen with him in episode 6. But with Zubble, it's a whole different story. What's actually super interesting is that starting from episode 4, Zubble's been way more active in all the adventures and convos, and if you think back to that therapy session with Kane in episode 3...
We weren't even talking about that! I really couldn't give less of a crap about the adventures.
Then what is your problem, Zubble? I'm trying my best to remember, but both you and my brain won't tell me!
It's me, remember? I don't like... myself. I hate this body. I hate all these stupid removable pieces.
Then look at how she acts during the more normal adventures.
Hey, I'm always down to make art together if you want.
Oh, I didn't know you were an artist too, Zubble.
Yeah, I was a tattoo artist for a couple years.
Now it's pretty clear she's opened up a lot more to everyone else. We also know Zubble as a pretty stable character, and if we go back to that leak, saying things are going to go wild in the digital circus starting from episode 6, then Zubble's going to play a big role in all that, because she's basically going to be looking out not just for herself, but for Gangle and Kinger too. And of course, with her emotional bond with Gangle, Zubble's definitely going to join the new adventure at the very least, just to keep her friends safe. Out of all the characters we got left, only Jax. So let's talk about him real quick. Judging by what went down in episode 5, it kinda looks like Jax maybe found some comfort in Pomni, and that's probably what's gonna kick off his whole shift into being a calmer and, let's say, more chill version of himself. We're finally gonna talk about what's gonna happen to Jax in episode 6 based on everything that's already happened with his character. Plus, the creators of the show have dropped a few hints about what might go down with this bunny. Today, we're gonna find out if he'll finally become more sane, or if his craziness is about to hit a whole new level. Just a heads up, this video is going to include a lot of scenes, and I seriously recommend watching the whole thing so you can fully remember everything Jax has done and said, because that'll help you better understand what's coming for him in episode 6. First off, let's break down all the leaks tied to Jax, and one of the most recent ones is this post from Goose, where she explains that Jax's awful behavior actually has its reasons, and as many fans believe it's all tied to the loss of Ribbit. A lot of people also noticed that in episode 5, Jax seemed way more reasonable than he was in the earlier episodes.
Why are you always pretending everything's always fine? Like, if you tell someone they're loved and appreciated every day, it just kind of loses all meaning. It just feels like she's trying to take advantage of you, you know? Sorry about the whole president thing. I just thought it'd be funny.
And because of all that, a lot of folks started seeing him as a good guy, but Gooseworx herself officially said we shouldn't think of him that way, because he's still very much not a good person. We also have that cutoff line from Jax in episode 6, but we'll get back to that a bit later. I already talked about why Jax should be the main focus of the next episode, and with that leak in mind, it's honestly kind of funny. I think a lot of fans were really moved by the final scene of episode 5.
I thought the first two were awesome. The rest, eh. Oh yeah, Pomni, I can show you that thing in the hall I was talking about.
Oh yeah, sure.
Throughout the whole episode, we clearly saw how the bond between Pomni and Jax kept getting stronger and stronger, and while at first Pomni was kind of suspicious about it, over time she started to really understand Jax, and by the end, it's obvious she fully trusts him now. We also remember how Jax reacted when someone brought up his old friend.
Do you have any actual friends?
Not anymore.
And we also remember how he kept trying to dodge the question the whole time.
What was that about?
It's nothing. Who cares?
So, you wanna talk about that?
I'm in a maid outfit, what do you think?
And now that we've figured out Jax's whole main arc, it's finally time to break down episode 6. In that very last scene, we saw Jax and Pomni heading off somewhere, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly where Jax's storyline is going to kick off. I honestly think the episode will open with a conversation between Pomni and Jax, where the bunny finally tells her the full truth about his best friend who's been gone from the digital circus for a while now. And I'm also pretty sure that for like half the episode, we're going to see Jax becoming more and more normal, almost like a totally sane version of himself without any of those rage outbursts.
What the heck? Who did this? You!
Jax, you're up to
I
bat!
don't wanna, I quite look like this though!
Or all that bullying he kept throwing at the other residents of the digital circus.
Which door should we choose?
Not sure. Let's try this out. Hey, Gangle, you should ram into him.
What?
You should not ram them. Pomni's still on board.
Be assertive, like this!
Jax!
But of course we all remember that so-called leak where Goose confirmed that episode 5 was basically the end of peaceful times in the digital circus. And starting from episode 6, we're gonna see full-blown chaos and madness. And here's why Jax is gonna be the one to kick it all off. As the new episode unfolds, we're gonna dive deeper into Jax's past and, which I'm honestly hyped about, finally find out why he's so scared of corn and whether there's actually a connection between Jax and Ragatha or if all those theories about them being siblings were just a clever trick from the show's creators. Cause honestly, they got a lot of stuff in common, and I already dropped a whole video on that theory. At the same time, we'll be learning more and more about Ribbit, and obviously all that's gonna come up during his convos with Pomni. And honestly, Pomni's gonna play a huge role in episode 6 when it comes to Jax, cause she's the one he sees as his new best friend now. Maybe the way Pomni acts and thinks reminds Jax of his old friend, and that's exactly why she's the only one he actually treats with respect.
I was an accountant for a supermarket chain.
A supermarket? How'd you end up here?
Well, I sometimes got bored of things, and I would seek out mild thrills, like exploring abandoned buildings, and posting videos of it online.
Ah, a YouTuber.
Not really. Nobody watched them.
But I couldn't stop thinking about how Jax, the new adventure, and the madness that's gonna start in episode 6 are all connected. And I think I finally found the answer. In episode 5, we got a glimpse of Jax's preferences, and please, lock those scenes in your head for later.
In today's episode of Poach Everything, I'm going to be hunting the critically endangered red ribbon rhinoceros. Ah, just like Mom used to make. Oi, mate! I'm an Australian extremist, and I've come to detonate this bomb that'll release all the world's deadliest spiders into... Did I pick a bad time?
Know what New Zealanders threaten people with.
Putting these scenes together with what we know from leaks, it's clear that the new adventure will be chosen by Jax, and it's going to be the craziest one in the history of the digital circus so far. Maybe that line is a hint at this, since in episodes 4 and 5, we slowly figured out that now the adventures aren't created by Kane, but by the circus residents themselves. I see the scene like this. Someone announces the new adventure, and then Jax says that line, and they ask him to name his own adventure. Kane likes it, and all the characters set off on Jax's dangerous adventure. Like I said before, Pomni will play a big role in episode 6, and I have a theory that Jax might have designed this adventure to finally confirm that Pomni really is, so to speak, Ribbit's reincarnation. But as usual in the digital circus, something's gonna go wrong and Pomni will start acting totally different from what Jax planned, which will only convince him once again that no one can replace that one true friend, and so you could say he'll lose his best friend all over again. That might be the kickoff for the madness Gooseworx promised us. But of course, things could go the other way, and Jax might actually turn into a more grounded character who's not just funny to watch, but genuinely enjoyable without all the constant mocking and mean jokes. And honestly, that path even seems more logical, cause both we and Jax clearly understand that Pomni isn't Ribbit and he'll never be able to replace him, or her, with anyone else. But finding some kind of peace through Pomni seems totally real, cause if you look close, Pomni actually gets Jax and she's clearly interested in talking to him and being around him. So, yeah, I feel like in episode 6, Jax might become more of a sane character and we won't see him messing with others as much. But of course, all of this is just theory for now. Anyway, I'm curious, which one of these theories do you trust more? Let me know in the comments. But even if we stick to the theory that Jax is going to become a more grounded character, the fact that some kind of madness is definitely coming, and it's most likely tied to Jax, doesn't exactly fit that calm storyline. But hey, y'all remember that mannequin that's been lurking around for a while and finally got some focus in episode 5? I got this feeling that it's definitely connected to Jax. And a lot of digital circus fans are dead convinced that this mannequin might actually be Jax's secret friend. What if he suddenly shows up, says he's Ribbit, and reveals some wild truth he learned about the digital circus? That could set off a full-blown chain reaction and kick off a straight-up revolution inside the digital circus, throwing everything into total chaos. To be honest, making a video like this was pretty tough, cause thinking through everything logically ain't as easy as it might seem. And I really don't want to put out trash content like Jax is definitely gonna abstract in episode 6, just for the sake of hype. We got that teaser with a very curious caption, hinting that episode 6 won't take half a year. And just recently, Goose actually confirmed it on Dobby the Hong's podcast, where she officially said that the worst case scenario is 4 months. And even then, she kept dodging the question while hyping us up with stuff like, "I'm so excited for this episode." And if 4 months is the absolute worst case, then the final possible date would be October 20th. But let me make you happy real quick. It's dropping way sooner. Here's a few reasons why. On that same podcast, Goose mentioned that episodes 3 and 4 were developed at the same time, and then added that the same thing is happening now. Not just for episodes 5 and 6, but she even hinted at episode 7. That means within the next 6 months we could get 2 new episodes, which is honestly insane. But for now, let's stay focused on episode 6. Considering the fact that 2 episodes were already being developed at the same time before, and back then the gap between episodes 3 and 4 was just a little over 2 months, it's easy to say that following that logic, episode 6 should drop sometime around late August. But honestly, I'm leaning more toward the end of September, because with every new episode the quality keeps getting better and better, which obviously means more time is needed to make each one. Aside from episode 6, episode 7 is also already in development, and taking all that into account, the last Friday of September feels like the perfect release date for episode 6. Like I said, Goose has mentioned multiple times that the new episode's gonna be absolutely insane, and she can't wait for everyone to finally see it. And what's really interesting is that Glitch has also been teasing us, just in a slightly different way. We've got a few hints that we might finally see Kofmo not just as a cardboard cutout or abstracted monster, but as a full-on character. Still, it's important to say I don't believe Kofmo's alive or coming back in episode 6, cause we clearly saw his abstracted form and how Kane moved his body into the cellar. After 5 episodes, we get that Kane can do literally anything inside the digital circus, but the system itself works in a way that whenever someone gets abstracted, a new character takes their place, and I don't think that's gonna change. However, these Kofmo mentions, even if there's no real proof, make things way more interesting, and if you remember, the pilot showed us Kofmo had a pretty good connection with Jax, so his appearance in some kind of flashback is almost guaranteed, and honestly, that's more than enough for me to finally get who Kofmo really was. I've already said it a bunch of times, and I'm not going to repeat it again. Episode 6 is mainly about Jax, no matter what anyone tries to say, and that actually reveals another big thing about this episode. Since the focus will be on the real Jax, both Kofmo and, more importantly, Ribbit, are a key part of his past, which means their appearance at least in some kind of memory is almost guaranteed. And while we've kind of figured things out with Kofmo, the Ribbit stuff is way more interesting because I already made a video where I proved that Weird Mannequin is 99% likely to be Jax's old best friend. And if we bring up that recent strange situation in X, An unknown user posted something, and in response, Goose hinted that it's better not to talk about it. And if we look at this comment right here, then most likely that post was referencing the future of the digital circus where one of the characters might turn into an abstracted monster. A lot of signs point to Ragatha being the unlucky one, and let's be honest, right now that sounds way more like the truth than a stretch, especially if we look at her mental state not just in episode 5 but in previous episodes too. Everything's clearly building up to something awful happening in the digital circus. And as we all remember, episode 5 basically marked the end of the calm era. From now on, it's going to be pure chaos. And what better way to kick off that chaos than someone from the main cast becoming abstracted and a new or returning character taking their place? It's a bold take for sure, but I genuinely believe Ragatha might actually become abstracted in episode 6. And if we logically connect this with the fact that episode 6 is supposed to focus mostly on Jax, the chances of this happening multiply. And now I'll explain why I'm so sure about it. We all remember how important Ribbit was to Jax, and it's obvious Ribbit will play a big role in episode 6. The only question is in what form. If we trust the theory that the mannequin is actually Ribbit, then the most reasonable idea is his full return to the digital circus after Ragatha's abstraction. Basically, it's the shortest path. All it takes is transferring consciousness from the mannequin's body back to Ribbit's real body. Now imagine if that really happens. That would be pure chaos. What do you think about this? But even that isn't the craziest thing that might happen in episode 6, because besides Jax, Kofmo, Ragatha, or Ribbit, we have the main character not just of a single episode, but of the entire show. Of course I'm talking about Pomni, who as you can see has become a kind of replacement for Ribbit for Jax.
I thought the first two were awesome. The rest, eh. Oh yeah, Pomni. I can show you that thing in the hall I was talking about.
Oh yeah, sure.
And honestly for me that's surprising, not just because Pomni almost always reacted to Jax like that.
How you doing?
Everything's been... I'm doing fine.
Wish I could say the same.
I see. From a previous adventure?
Yeah, God, Pomni, you didn't know that?
I'm ignoring you.
By the way, Pomni.
And also because throughout all the episodes, Jax treated Pomni pretty roughly. Maybe he wanted to be sure about something. Maybe he was testing how similar Pomni and Ribbit are. And if we recall the original concept art of Pomni and look again at Ribbit, it becomes obvious they're basically the same character split across different time frames within the digital circus. Just imagine what will happen if Ribbit returns to the already established friendship between Pomni and Jax. I think this topic needs to be explored in much more detail in future videos, but for now, let's get back to something simpler. A while ago, Goose revealed a random phrase of Jax in episode 6, and it seems Jax will clearly be unhappy about something, and I think it's about the initial adventure of episode 6, which will most likely be changed, let's say, at Jax's request. That makes sense because right now Jax is the only character whose past and present we know very little about, and I think his adventure will be the perfect start to fully reveal Jax. Also, if we remember Jax's main weakness.
When we catch up to him, I'll jump over, crawl inside, and shoot him repeatedly until they're unrecognizable.
I feel like that violates some kind of convention.
You're violating my ears with your clapback. I'm going to be hunting the critically endangered red ribbon rhinoceros. Ah, just like Mom used to make.
So I'm more than sure it's going to be crazy fun, and maybe even dangerous. Besides that, there's another pretty intriguing topic that will probably get revealed in episode 6, and first, we gotta remember Ragatha's life before the digital circus.
I was born into a fairly wealthy family. We had a large property with horses and chickens, and my mother, my mother was a lot. I worked in real estate for a bit until I ended up here. I'm sure she doesn't miss me.
We learned about her past, about her mother, and most interestingly, we found out her family was somehow connected to a farm, and considering it's been confirmed that Jax is afraid of corn.
Why'd you do that? Can you get that thing away from me?
Are you afraid of corn?
No. Who's afraid of corn?
It becomes clear these characters are somehow connected and definitely knew each other in the real world. And here's the most interesting part. Could they really be brother and sister since their behavior toward each other not only in episode 5 but also in previous episodes is pretty unusual? Of course this might be just a theory, but their connection in the real world is almost fully confirmed. And in episode 6, we'll finally get the truth and learn about their relationship before the digital circus, and why exactly there's some kind of chemistry between these two characters. I'm waiting for your thoughts and theories about episode 6 in the comments, and I'll see you real soon in the next videos.